So, what comes first, ideas or inspiration? Not really sure, but if you're looking for inspiration, maybe I can help. Hey guys, welcome to Panels in Progress, the podcast about creating comics and manga, where we dig deep into the details. I'm Chris, and today we're going to talk about inspiration. And hopefully, I inspire you to create a cool story. Definition of inspiration is the process of being mentally stimulated to do or feel something creative. I'm sure we've all had those moments where we've watched an amazing TV show or a movie. We are just awe inspired. We see the art, we see the colors, we're engaged with the story, the world building. And when we watch it, we think about all the possibilities. I think about when Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse first came out, and just how immediately after I saw it, I wanted to see it again. I think about how the colors, the style, the way it was animated, the shape language, the pixelated sort of coloring style, the squiggly lines, how it had this amazing merge between animation and comics. It paid lots of homages to comics. I think about Arcane and that art style, as well as the way that was animated, especially those big moments where there were battles and fighting. Just the technique, it was beautiful to look at, as well as engaging because of the story. Blue Eye Samurai is another one that comes to mind, where the art style was just different enough, just beautiful enough. The art direction, the way the story was told, very enjoyable, very inspiring. All of those series, all the movies, Puss in Boots, The Last Wish, inspired so much creativity and started a whole new conversation of the new direction that animation should move in. And so much fan art was created because of those movies, or those TV shows, and just how different they were from everything else that had been coming out before then. Let's talk about the recent manga that's come out. The art that's on a different level every time you look at it, turn the page. It's a beautiful gift for your eyes to feast on. I'm talking about Witch Hat Atelier, Akira, Berserk, Gannibal, One Punch Man. Obviously, some new, some old. Beautiful things that every time you read these manga, you just want more. You just want to see more, and you're amazed, and you wonder, how did the artist do this? How did they create this? What were they even thinking while they made it? Because it's something you haven't seen before, or it was done so well that it feels like you've never seen it before. Some of the Western-made comics that stood out to me within the recent couple years is Do a Powerbomb, Something's Killing the Children, Philadelphia. The list goes on and on. Feral is another one. The way they told the stories, the way they did the art design, the character designs, the world building. Just the fact that it was different inspired me in so many ways. Think about your favorite songs, your favorite genres of music, and it's something about the beat, something about the rhythm, something about the way the instruments sound or the lyrics, and you can just see a scene unfolding in your head. I was listening to an album today by Bernth. I don't know how to pronounce it, but he's a guitarist, and it was beautiful. The album was called elementals. He did all these different things with his guitars, whether putting it in water, setting it on fire. I saw the videos, but listening to the music, it was just so beautiful and so different. It sounded so unique that the music spoke for itself. And in that moment, it made me want to create something. I didn't know what I wanted to create, but I wanted to create something. And then let's think about authors and how they write their books. I'm pretty sure you've read novels or short stories where you were on the edge of your seat because it was a thriller. You didn't know if the main character was going to make it out alive, or it was really heartfelt moment between two characters. I can think about, I finished the Jade Legacy, or the Greenbone Saga is the name of the saga series, or the book series. But I finished Greenbone Saga, and the last book was Jade Legacy, and there was a tender moment between the father and the son, and it was so moving to me that instantly I saw what was happening in my head, and I had to make it into a comic. And I actually did. I made a small short story about it, still working on it, but those types of stories, they're inspiring as well. Books, audiobooks, whatever your personal flavor is, it's all very inspiring. And last but not least, what if you have a friend who's amazing at telling stories, where every time you talk to them, they have this wild story, this tall tale, where something insane happens that you can barely believe it, but because you know your friend so well, you know that it probably did happen. Maybe not as exaggerated as they claim, but still, it's a great story, and it inspires you to retell that story as a comic. That can be pretty inspiring as well. My point is, inspiration can come from anywhere. Inspiration can come from a light place, meaning happy, joy, funny, or it can come from a darker place, a painful place, where it's a hard moment, a difficult subject, something you need to say, something you're going through. Inspiration can come from both sides, and all of it can be used to create something interesting. I said it in my last episode, but I think it's worth saying it here too. In my episode about ideas, that whatever you're consuming, whether it's via social media, television, movies, books, whatever, it should be inspiring and it should make you want to create something. If you're not inspired by anything you're seeing, then is it even worth consuming? Is it even worth watching? Just some food for thought. Alright, so we've got all this inspiration coming from all these different places. Let's talk about how we can take this inspiration and transform it into a story. And I'm going to give you some examples of how I did this with my own stories. When I first started making comics, I told you about how I had to give myself permission to make shitty comics. In that time in my life, all I wanted to do was focus on paneling and dialogue and just the basics of making comics. So in order to inspire me to create something, because I didn't have a story, I didn't have characters, I didn't have anything, I decided to basically Google story prompts, dialogue prompts, character A, B prompts. So it was literally just character A says a thing, character B responds, character A says another thing. And it was like 100 dialogue prompts or 100 short stories or short scenarios where it was very quick, so I could just practice the idea of two characters talking back and forth. That led into my Instagram comic, which is on Instagram, obviously. It's called The Other Half, where I used real life situations between me and my wife, and they were just little jokes or little things that actually happened between us or things that could happen. So, slice of life experiences, but basically I used myself as a character. I made her into a character. I put us in situations that could happen or have happened. And I drew inspiration from daily life. The fear dimension, that came to being because ultimately I want to tell longer form stories. The other half was short comics between 4 to 6, maybe 10 panels depending, but those were very, very short. The webtoon, The Fear Dimension, was a little bit longer, but I wanted to tell short stories, beginning, middle, and end, and I figured that the horror genre would be the easiest to do because, you don't necessarily have to explain a lot of things. You don't have to really build things up. You just have a character in a situation. And I drew inspiration with that from things like Twilight Zone, Tales of the Crypt, Goosebumps, Are You Afraid of the Dark? Basically, those type of short stories where each episode, each webtoon is a different character, different scenario, but because it's the fear dimension, it's all happening in the same reality, but just to different people. So just weird things. So after I did several episodes of that, I wanted to stretch my story chops out a little bit more, and I wanted to create my first one shot. Now, ultimately, this is where I started to create my own side quests, because the reason why I started making comics in the first place was because I want to tell a very long form story that I have. But I'll get to that in a second. So, Doppel, the comic that I'm working on right now, the one shot, it's 55 pages. It was my first time doing at least in this part of my life, a comic style where it's got a page format with the intention to possibly print one day. That idea, I drew inspiration from The Stepford Wives, the movie, Doppelgangers, which is a thing, Google it, Coraline, specifically The Other Mother, The Faculty, an old movie, and Animorphs. If you guys know those old movies and that old TV show, let me know in the comics because, hey, we both watch the same things. But yeah, so that's where I'm drawing inspiration from for the comic I'm currently working on now. So I made a couple other comics. The short comics that I made, two of them, they're like 2-page comics each. They're both on my Instagram, at Chris Ward Did That. But two of them, I basically just got the ideas from prompts in the How to Draw Shonen manga book just to practice. And then the other one I did for a comic book workshop with Jake Parker, and I got that idea from Jade Legacy, the book I was talking about earlier. Really powerful stuff. I obviously changed a couple of things from the scene to make it work for the comic, but still really great stuff. But here's some other ideas that I have. So I have a Java Joe is basically the working title, but that comic idea is going to be inspired, or is inspired by, my personal work life experience, Animorphs again, cults, and the movie Get Out. Chrisverse is another comic idea that I have, and that one is is inspired by the one movie, Murder Mystery, so just pick any type of murder mystery where you have to figure out who done it. Highlander, the movie, Doppelgangers, again. And then I have a haunted house short story that I want to create, which is inspired by creepy houses, antisocial people in my life that I actually know, poor housing market, the book How to Sell a Haunted House. And so those are all short stories that I want to make. Now, ultimately, the story that I really want to make, which is at least going to be extremely long, so at least I'm talking The first arc of it is 12 issues that I've written out already, but that's a story for another time. Anyway, it's called REM. It's based on dreams, or it's inspired by, I should say, dreams, Nightmare on Elm Street, Inception, and coming of age stories. All of these were concepts inspired by things that I've seen, or I have interest in, or I've lived. So basically, when you are thinking of a story, use the things that you're into. Use the things that you are interested in. You know, whether it's certain topics, certain books, certain movies, certain genres, certain styles. Like, you can mix and match and come up with something new. And the more you create, the more you might notice that you're influenced by similar topics and similar themes. I consider that your home base of interest, the things that you keep visiting over and over again. So, for example, I love things about different dimensions. I love things about dreams or other realities. Apparently, I'm really interested in people who have lookalikes. I don't know why, but it's something that keeps coming up, and I keep thinking about this concept. So I keep revisiting it, just in different ways. Sometimes you can take the same concepts for an idea and reconfigure them in different ways, from different perspectives, and a whole new idea can sprout from the same idea garden. So then I guess you're asking, how do you know what truly inspires you? How do you pull ideas from your inspiration? Well, you have to look at things critically. Think about your favorite manga or comic. What made you fall in love with it? Was it the characters, their personalities, the world building, the action, the plots, the tone, the colors? You have to identify what parts you recognized the most, what parts stuck out the most. And you can actually do this with any type of media. You can do it with movies, video games, books, obviously comics. You just basically go beat for beat and figure out, what was it about that game that I liked? Was it the gameplay mechanics? Was it the story? Was it the character designs? The character's motivation? All of these things can come into play, and it's all relevant. But I will warn you that once you turn on this idea of thinking critically about why you like certain things, it is very hard to turn it off. Sometimes I catch myself watching a TV show or a movie or playing a game and wondering, like, oh, how did they do this? Or look at how they compose this scene, and check out the lighting, and look at the silhouette of this character. And you just notice those little details. And sometimes it kicks you out of the moment, but it definitely comes in handy when you want to draw inspiration from whatever you're watching. So now you've got your inspiration, you've got your list of why you like the things you like, and you're ready for the next step. Take all the ideas, mash them together, blend them, and see what you got. Here's some examples of what I'm talking about. There's a recent comic called Feral, and it's basically The Walking Dead meets Cats. There's a whole other story to it. However, if you boil it down, you can literally use that as the pitch. And if you're not reading it, you should definitely check it out. Stray Dogs is actually by the same creators of Feral, but it's Disney meets serial killers. You might be asking, huh? What? You just have to read it. It's really great. Check it out. Do a Powerbomb Pro Wrestling meets Fantasy Necromancy. Sinners, the movie, blues music and vampires with racial allegory. Hard Eyes, the movie, a romantic comedy mixed with a slasher horror movie. Dungeon Crawler Carl, the book, is lit RPG mixed with science fiction, dark comedy, and it has a cat as a sidekick. And Mistborn is mixed with My Fair Lady, Ocean's 11, and fantasy on top of it. All of your favorite things have this sort of idea. Give it a try and see what ideas you can come up with different genres, different topics, and other features, and see what you get. And I actually, as I was planning out this video, I remembered something that I read from Still Like an Artist by Austin Kleon. And he says, how to look at the world like an artist. Every artist asks the question, where do you get your ideas? The honest artist answers, I steal them. How does an artist look at the world? First, you figure out what's worth stealing. Then you move on to the next thing. That's all there is to it. When you look at the world this way, you stop worrying about what's good and what's bad. There's only stuff worth stealing and stuff that's not worth stealing. Everything is up for grabs. If you don't find something worth stealing today, you might find it worth stealing tomorrow or a month or a year from now. Nothing is original. The writer Jonathan Lethem has said that when people call something original, 9 out of 10 times, they just don't know the reference of the original sources involved. What a good artist understands is that nothing comes from nowhere. All creative work builds on what came before. Nothing is completely original. It's right there in the Bible. There is nothing new under the sun. Ecclesiastes 1:9. Some people find this idea depressing, but it fills me with hope. As a French writer, André Gide, or maybe Gide, put it, everything that needs to be said has already been said, but since no one was listening, everything must be said again. If we're free from the burden of trying to completely be original, we can stop trying to make something out of nothing, and we can embrace influence instead of running away from it. This is a really cool book, by the way. Check it out at your local library or buy it. It's old. I've had this since I was in college, but it's a great way of also thinking of things in a different way for artists. The last thing I want to talk about is the power of asking what if while you're creating. Brandon Sanderson talked about reading Harry Potter and thinking that the Dark Lords don't get a break. Now, he's told this story a couple times on his writing class. It's on YouTube. If you're not watching it, I don't know what you're doing with your life. It's Brandon Sanderson. He's got a lot of great advice when it comes to writing, and I do plan on doing a episode about writing when it comes to the story. But long story short is that one day he was either reading Harry Potter or he finished watching a movie or what have you, and he was thinking to himself, man, these Dark Lords don't get a break. You know, they always lose. There's always some kid that comes and beats them. What if the Dark Lord won? And that question sparked a whole trilogy called Mistborn, where he took that concept and of course he added his own magic systems and he added his own like weather patterns on top of it. But ultimately, he just asked the question, what if? I also think about Something is Killing the Children. Maybe the question was, what if the monsters that the children believed in came to life and hunted them? I can't prove that that's what James Tynion was thinking when he wrote that series, but it seems very possible, like a what if question. Maybe the creators of The Matrix said, what if we lived in a simulated world and someone needed to be unplugged from it in order to wake up? I have no idea if that's what they said, but the fact that that movie spawned a trilogy asking that very question, it's worth asking what if. Another idea is maybe Stephen King for Pet Sematary asked, what if an old Indian burial ground could bring back the dead? Good question. And he explored it in a book, and he's got how many movies? I think he's even got a TV show about Pet Sematary. But still, all from the question, what if? I could go on, and I'm sure you could as well, about what if when it comes to different movies, TV shows, video games, comics, manga. But if you actually come up with some pretty good ones, on some of your favorite books or comics or games, go ahead and put it in the comment section because I'd love to read them. These what if things are pretty interesting. In conclusion, you can pull inspiration from anywhere. You just need to ask yourself what you like about it. Then take those ideas and mix and mash and blend them in a way that inspires you to create. Hope you found this topic helpful, and I hope I inspired you to think differently about how you find your inspiration and how you use your inspiration to create some new ideas. Let me know if any of this was helpful, or if you'd like a little bit more on the topic. I can always dive a little bit deeper. Till then, I'll see you on the next episode.